not so windy on Friday for your prairie burn.
Sorry?
Hopefully it's not so windy on Friday for the prairie burn.
It'll be Saturday and it will not. We will. We don't want to have a very fast, we don't want it to be a fast one.
No. Yeah, I might come and, what'd you say, snoopervise. I don't know if I've seen a prairie burn up close and personal.
Well, it should be a good day. It's going to be a warm and
beautiful thing.
and we have a lot of people and supplies. Mike Grace
big feet
volunteered. Didn't you, Mike?
What was that?
What?
The only prairie burns that I've seen, you ask for the people with the biggest feet, so that in case things get out of control, they can stomp out the fire.
Oh,
There you go. Yes.
yeah. So how do you kind of delineate where the fire stops?
Oh, okay. You're first checking. Well, right now we have a lot of those pathways around there. We use them as the start of a fire break. We start them and then we burn slowly into the wind from those pathways. So depending on which way the wind is coming from, well, let's say it's coming from the southwest, you'll start at the northeast corner and then you circle the area with the fire. By the time you get around, and then you can let it, by the time you get to circling it, then you let it run, and that's where it can get kind of exciting, but then you have big fire breaks. You have big fire breaks that keep it from jumping.
Yeah.
And that's where the wind, if the wind is over 15, no.
Yeah. Hold off. I guess that's why you have to do that 24-hour check right beforehand with the fire chief.
Yes.
Make sure all conditions are ideal. But I'm sure I'll be smelling it in my house.
So anybody who wants to come join at Lerner Park, you're more welcome. We can get you into the training. And if you're strong enough, we'll slap 5 gallons of water on your back and a little pumper hose.
Elise, if you got 5 o'clock?
I do, yeah. I have a couple people rolling in here, but I'll just let them in as they come into the Zoom. But go ahead and get started whenever you're ready, John.
Okay. Good evening. I'd like to call the Village of Oregon Special Joint Planning Commission and Historic Preservation Commission meeting. I have 5 o'clock on my clock, so I'd like to have a roll call, please.
Schnelly, Bano,
Here.
Sievertson, Meyer,
Here.
Molzon,
Here.
Carpenter,
Here.
Smithback, and Marr.
Here.
Thank you.
So do we have a quorum, Joy?
Yeah, we have 5.
Okay, perfect.
Sievertson is here too. I just got in late.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Mark.
Mark. Turn it over to you, Arlen.
Okay, call to order the Village of Oregon Historic Preservation Commission. Can we have a roll call?
Sure. Carpenter Uriah,
Here.
Kai,
Here.
Belzak,
Here.
Bano,
Still here.
Bonsai Beal,
Here.
Glish,
Here.
Lease. And is there a sit?
Hi, yes.
Great, thank you.
So we have,
Great. Looking like we have a quorum for the HPC, Arlen?
yes, we do.
Excellent. Moving on to the agenda, item number 5, the approval of the planning commission minutes, which are not yet available, so we'll keep moving. At this time, item 6 is for community input. If there is somebody in the audience that would like to speak on an item that is not listed on the agenda, this is your opportunity to step forward and virtually speak to us, I guess. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak on an item that is not on the agenda? I don't see anybody raising their hand or stepping in. Elise, do you?
Nope.
Just scrolling down. Yep, I don't see anybody waving their hand. So
Okay, so then we'll keep moving then. Item 7, public appearances. Arlen, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Okay, we have design possible recommendations for the 113 and 119 South Main Street for Good Company Restaurant. Applicants, you have the floor.
Thanks, Arlen. Brett, sorry to cut you off. I'll just give a few brief words. Thank you guys again for having us back. We've taken a considerable amount of time and additional resources to come back to you in good faith today from 3 weeks ago or so. So thank you for letting us come back. Our main intent here was we took Arlen's notes, and it was to further explore if we could pay homage to the historic nature as well as some of the operating systems of these two properties. And we feel good. It was a battle to get to this point. So we hope that it will gain your support today with the changes that we've made. Considerably more expensive, but that's for us to figure out. But needless to say, I'm Patrick Sweeney. I'm one of the owners of Good Company, along with my partner Matt Stebbins. I live in Bergamont, just across the street from hole number 7 there on Bryn Hill. And I'm excited to be part of the community. Matt and I have been doing this for a long time in and around Madison, and what we're going to bring out here is nothing short of our best effort. So happy to be a part of the community. Happy to continue to work with you guys. I see a lot of familiar faces on here, and we're ready to get going. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm Brett Rottinghaus with Opn Architects. We've been working with Patrick and Matt on this project. And last time what we heard was we needed to work harder on respecting, as Patrick started to allude to there, to the Masonic building and some of the historic nature of that building. Originally, we were proposing moving the entrance into that building off to one side, reworking probably some of the structural elements that were there, and then opening the front facade there. The big notes that we heard last time was that we needed to work with the existing structure and try to leave that intact as much as possible. And then also try to look back at the historic photos of the Masonic building and try to work with that, use that as kind of our driving force as we're working through designs. We looked at quite a few different operable window systems, some of which operate a lot more easily than the system that we ended up choosing. A lot of that has to do with counterweight systems versus no counterweight systems. If you go with a different system that doesn't have a counterweight system, then you're locked to a specific width or dimensions, and also then it drives patterns of mullions and all the different details. So ultimately, the system that we ended up proposing for this allowed us the freedoms to select and work with the historic patterning of the mullion system, as well as work within the historic structure confines that are there, and really respect those. So what we're proposing here, if we start on looking at the left-hand side of this rendering, maintaining that base of the building that is original to the building. There's some pieces on it that need to be touched up. I mean, as any building ages, it's wood primarily on the exterior. So there's some pieces there that need to be touched up, maintained, repaired. but it would all be restored in kind to what is there currently. The cast iron structure, the beams or the columns, the one that's in the middle there, as well as you step back towards, there's a 45 angled window there. There's a couple more cast iron posts there that we will be maintaining, as well as the existing door that is there. From historic photos that we were able to find, the door looks original. If it's not, then it was replaced in kind to look that way. We actually want to try to reuse that door. We do need to adjust its swing to swing out just because of life safety reasons. But we want to reuse that door and really try to respect the history, the historic nature of the building as much as possible. Then we get to that main operable window, which is a renleated door. It is a door that pivots in the middle on the sides. So the entire pane, the entire section of glass tips down and slides up. So the reason that we chose that system is because if you go with any sort of folding system, wherever it folds, you have to have a mullion, actually 2 mullions right there to accommodate that pivot in there, and then it would move up or down. What this system allows us to do is to have a rectangle, right? And then we can put the mullions wherever we need inside of that. So it allows us to really get as close and try to fine tune the historic mullion patterns as much as possible. So when it is down, it will look more like, at least, yeah, thank you. Yep. So it'll look more like this when the windows are down, paying as much or trying to get as close to that historic image that we're trying to get to. If we now go to the building on the right-hand side, this one we're proposing, currently that door is in the middle. Not that door, sorry, Elise, that door is one bay over to the right. So it actually sits in the middle and then has 2 sections of glass on either side. What we're proposing is shifting that door over 1 bay. So that way those operable windows and the function inside just functions better. The base of that window, again, we would be proposing making it look similar all the way across. So picking up on the historic details to bring that across, and then we would be stepping back kind of in a similar fashion to the main entrance door there. In order to make the 2 buildings look similar, we opted to go with a window pattern that looks most similar to the Masonic building on the left. Originally, this building had more of a paneled window system, which since has been discarded. It is not, currently it's just large sections of glass. So we were trying to play a good balancing act of paying homage to some of the history while also making the 2 buildings resemble one another. So when they are open, we are in both cases working with the existing structure, those cast iron columns that are there on either side in both buildings, maintaining that beam line that goes across the top all the way across on both buildings, and really using the openings that are provided to us by the building to work within. That is kind of a high level conversation of it. Are there any questions? I guess I could walk through the floor plan here a little bit more detail here. So on the top piece there, that is where we were showing that section of glass. This is what it would look like. The dashed line there is actually the window when it is open, how it would sit overhead. So bringing in the panels that you would see there, maintaining that entryway. And then on the bottom portion, the two windows there again shown as though they were up and open, relocating that entranceway to one bay up, which allows for a much more open, inviting area on the bottom side of the plan there for seating. So this next page shows some of the details that we are trying to pay attention to, how the window system actually operates, the front elevation, and the current condition of some of those base elements. In the upper right, primarily, that is where we are seeing a little bit of wear and tear. Just, I mean, it's expected with salt, snow, rain. As it hits some of those bases, they've held up fairly well, but there are in some instances where pieces need to be replaced. So we would be replacing those in kind and matching existing. Any questions?
If you can back up to that section, the previous, the section that shows where, whoop, a little bit too far. Anyway, I was looking at the, okay, you have the head that's above the operating window. I'm not quite sure, is that an infill space there?
Yeah, so currently the windows go up, they fall just short, maybe about 4 inches or so of that beam. And there's some wood trim detail that happens there. The way that the system operates, it's the more minimal option of what we could find. It goes up slightly as it goes into its horizontal position. And so in order to minimize the amount of ceiling that we have to redo on the interior, because there's a tin ceiling on the inside, we were proposing adding some wood trim on the exterior to bring that down slightly. So we would be reducing it just slightly. So that way the window would have room to operate.
Historic Preservation Commission members, are there questions?
So Arlen, can I just give some comments, if that's okay?
Please.
Okay, so I personally like all the changes that have been made. And I actually I went there this morning just to sort of see what the outside facade looks like. And I aside from a little paint here, a little paint there, I think it's all really in good shape. I like the ideas that the windows open. And I especially like the idea when the windows are closed. I think it respects the historic nature of the building. And Brett, you were talking about that one door, I think it's on the left-hand side. And what caught my eye was the hardware of that door. And I wondered too, if that is actually original hardware, which may be, but I think it's all in pretty good shape. And so I just want to say, I like what you guys have done. I think I think it does respect the building, the historic nature of the building. And I think it'll be a nice asset for downtown.
Other members?
I just had a question about the color of the Good Company buildings. In the color picture, the buildings look very similar, but currently they're slightly different colors, with the Good Company building being more of a whitish color. Is that getting changed to more resemble the Masonic Temple building?
currently, we would not be sandblasting that. It's tough to get paint off a brick. It really is. And not deteriorate the existing masonry that's back there. It's, I don't want to say impossible, but it's tough. It is really tough. I would be worried that we would be getting into deteriorating the material that's back there if we went with that sort of strategy. The renderings are purely conceptual. They're meant to give the feeling of what we're going for. The detailed drawings are more reminiscent of what would actually happen. But
Dan,
does that answer your question? I'm sorry.
Dan, our other option is to paint the building that's kind of whitish right now, like fire engine red, if that would look good.
When you say sandblasting, that's a general cringe that destroys masonry and also starts to it. You can lose your listing on the National Register
Exactly.
if you sandblast a building. Not a good thing to do.
No.
Other comments from
Brett, I've got a
commission
couple of
members?
questions. Brett, I've got a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
First of all, I think that what you guys have done, the modifications that you have made are fabulous. Thank you so much for listening to what we have requested. But I just want some clarification to be sure. So you are maintaining the existing cast iron beam and columns that are in place, correct?
Correct.
And you are also maintaining the existing, I'm going to call it sill or knee wall as much as possible and just patching and repairing as necessary, correct?
Correct. With the caveat, the existing sill that is there is designed in a way to house a fixed window. Because we are doing an operable window, it'll have to have some modification to it, but the intent is to bring it and make it look like the historic or the knee wall that you see there today. Does that answer your question?
It does. So you're changing the cap, but you're maintaining the knee wall, the existing knee wall.
Yes.
Okay. And then as far as the product itself, you had mentioned that this is a much more historic sensitive product than what you had proposed last time. Could you speak a little bit more to that as far as what materials the door will be made of? Is it a metal clad? Is it a aluminum powder coated?
Right. So to clarify on that, the system itself is not more historic. The reason that it gives the reason I used that was because it allows us freedom in placement of mullions. So our placement of the mullions allows us to pay more homage to the original mullion pattern of the building.
Okay. So then as far as the thicknesses of the mullions, what would you say that they are roughly?
They are, I actually have a CAD drawing open right in front of me. They are the 2 inches. Sorry, 1 sec here. Yeah, 2 inches wide. So pretty similar to what is out there today. The storefront that's out there.
And your color that you're looking to use is a black, is that correct?
Yes, yeah, because that's what is historically is there.
Okay, all right. I think that what you've proposed is a great response. You've listened to us. You've maintained the existing facade as much as possible. It meets the needs of what the client needs. While I know that they have had to make some sort of compromises, I guess that's part of the game when it comes to this. So I applaud you for what you've done on the project.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments?
as a plan commission member and a former HPC member, I'd just like to make a couple comments. I like what's echoed before. I do appreciate how far you've gone to incorporate changes. I guess I would ask, John was starting to put his finger on it. We really don't have jam sections to really see what the mull profiles look like. I'm assuming that they're probably going to be flat. It sounds like the system allows you to clad that flat jam profile with other materials. Have you explored that in any way?
We have not explored that explicitly. I don't know what sort of cap profiles they have. We were anticipating using just the flat cap profile.
Yeah. And I understand you've gone through extra expense to add a system that's going to work for you. If we were to ramp it up another notch, if you look at the columns, you look at the detailing on the building, that would be a way to echo it, but I understand that's going to increase the cost. So, you know, putting a modern storefront flat surface in a building like this is less than ideal, but it's better than the alternative, I guess. So that's my feeling there. With respect to the repairs that are going to go on below the window, what material are you looking to repair that with?
It would be in kind, so, but the material that is below there is all wood.
Right.
And so we would be replacing it with wood and patching it.
No desire to use a cellular PVC or something that will withstand the test of time better?
You know, and actually Randy had mentioned some of this. I was actually pretty impressed with how well most of it is held up. There's just a few spots that need some touch up to it. It's actually held up, I think, fairly well. Our thought was that using a different material would not pay respect to its historic nature. So we were trying to use a similar material right in place.
Yeah, fair enough.
And Patrick, just to comment on your thought about the flat storefront, currently what is there is a flat storefront profile. And so that's why we didn't really dive too much further into trying to find out what the old profile was, like the original building profile was.
Right. And that tends to be what everybody falls back to. And I get it why. If you truly wanted to pay homage to the historic nature of the building, there's an opportunity to do it. But, you know, I understand where you're coming from. Mm-hmm. My last question is the door on the Masonic building. That's an exit only door, I'm assuming?
Correct. So
how will you direct traffic? I know you have your sign is on the other building, but how will you keep people from looking at that as a natural entrance?
Well, and we're mainly, go ahead, Patrick, sorry.
I think it's all just telegraphing to your customer, whether it's through etching or, you know, I don't want to, again, there'll be some sort of signage, very, very minimal, you know, etching on that door saying this is exit only, please enter, you know, through the other side. So I don't know in terms of like a locking, you know, emergency exit, Brett, that's something you could answer better than I could.
Right. So because of, you know, just the numbers that we're at, we need to take that door and make it swing outward. And then with that, we would have panic hardware on there from the inside. I think we would probably try to lock that door from the exterior so people wouldn't be able to grab it and come straight in, which then they would go to the other door to actually enter.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Patrick.
Question of you. The new main entrance is not, it's just shown as a full light door. What is the material of that door?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's funny, we were actually talking about this. Right now, we're looking at taking the existing door that is how you would enter the building and using that same door, moving it over. I don't think that door is historic at
No.
all. But we were playing with the idea of using that existing door, trying to move it over, just trying to use as many parts and pieces of the existing building as possible. But yeah, that was kind of where we
Yeah,
were.
so that's the initial thought. I mean, we would be open to doing like a really tasteful wood door. We could go storefront. We'd rather not go like a storefront type door,
Right.
but something, you know, something memorable would be
Ideal for us.
Yeah.
Well, this is an opportunity for, glad you're not looking at having a storefront door there.
Right.
While that existing door has been acceptable in the past, you can certainly step. It'd be interesting to see if you could step that. Right now, the proposal you have before us is to be reusing the existing door.
Yes.
Correct.
It's a little.
Something that we that has been talked to before is the detail sections of the heads, the jambs, and the sills to test their compatibility with this. Is this something that you can be providing for review to some of the members in the past? Where I'm getting at is in the past, we've had an approval pending submission of details for the heads, jambs, and sills that could be approved by one or more of the HPC members.
Yep.
If that can be something that can be a condition of the approval.
I can provide those.
Okay. As others have said, this is a great improvement. Thank you very much for listening. This is these are the Masonic Lodge is a very significant building in our downtown, and appreciate the respect here. Also appreciate the guts you have to be having something that's very new and evolving into these historic openings. So that's we'll count one for evolution here.
Thank you.
Is there any other comments from Plan Commission and HPC members? If not, I think we're ready. Is there a motion that somebody but to the left of the entrance.
Yes, or we could move it over and put it between the other two insets, right? Or put it below the inset, right over the entrance. I just thought it might be better to stay away from those insets.
You're referring to the insets, meaning the recess for the doors?
These little guys.
What little guy? Oh, those little guys.
Yeah, they're recessed one brick back. So it just gives some depth feature to it.
Okay.
So like, I'm just gonna erase for a second. So I'm trying to learn how this works. So this is where it is shown on the picture. And we're kind of proposing raising it to this level and setting it in the brick up there. Most likely somewhere in between those three lines.
So
and
Dan,
the bottom of those lines, the bottom, the I-beam, the top of the I-beam is 14 feet from the ground.
So Dan, this is Randy Glish. What I do like is that you mentioned this. I do like it that's in line with the other Berge signs and the other signs on the buildings. I do like that. And I wonder, Dan, too, if that insert with the brick that's recessed, is that enough? Is that wide enough for you to get a bracket in there?
But we wouldn't actually be going into a recess. The part right here is not recessed.
Okay,
and
so that's
we'd
where
just
you
be going-
want it. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
That seemed to be the spot that did the least amount of damage to any historical feature on the building.
Yeah. I think that's a good choice.
I agree with
So that was
Randy.
the only other change from last time, was the change to the type of bracket and then the movement of the sign a little bit.
And Dan, can I just mention, I do like the scroll bracket, the one you showed us last time, the more heftier one. My least favorite is that deluxe scroll one that's on that last page.
Okay.
I'm not a real fan of that. I think your first choice is the way to go.
Okay, I'll send
That's
a
just
couple
my
options
opinion.
you guys ways, and you can let me know what you like the most. I don't have a strong preference on it, so.
I'll have to see what other people think.
Yeah. I could go back to the packet. I think I had a couple of the choices you were looking at, Dan, in the packet.
Yeah, do I,
If you just
do I have to stop
sharing.
sharing?
Dan, if I could, I agree with Randy. I think that the location for what you're proposing on the sign at the band is a better location. I also think that I appreciate your response that you are picking a spot that already seemed to have had signage hanging from it. So you're trying to minimize the impact that you're creating on this historic facade. So I appreciate that. So I would be all on board for going with the location that you would prefer up in that sign band between the windows. And as far as the bracket goes, you know, just give us an answer as to what you prefer, because Randy likes one, I like a different one, Patrick likes a different one, Fred likes this one, Arlen, you know, just tell us what you want. I think that we're pretty agreeable that what you would propose would be accepting, as long as it's not, I don't know, brass with cherubs on it. So
Yeah, we'll try to avoid the gold, gilded gold Cupid or something.
Thank you.
I did see some that had dolphins swinging along the bar, so.
No.
So Dan, do you have a preference to which one you like?
Not yet. I actually have one that's not in here. That is, if you go down, it's sort of like the deluxe scroll bar, but without the filigree on it. So it's more like that, but just the bar coming, the wrought iron coming straight out, twisted.
Yeah.
And there's one like that that has a little bit more, I'd call it Baroque design above the bar, rather than that more lacy look that it has now.
But
I would tend to agree with John that we're not here to design it for you. You're here, you need to be telling us what it is you want, and we can react to it.
Sure,
So
so I'll get the final
if I'm,
together and get that to Arlen to look at. Was that the motion?
there is no motion on the floor yet.
Oh, okay.
So it was just a suggestion there, or what is it that, and I'm hearing you say that the one that you prefer, you don't have yet. You don't have.
Well, it would be the deluxe scroll bracket right now, the heavy duty one.
That one
yes. Which I'm sure someone doesn't like, so.
Well, that,
It's your business, Dan.
this is now.
And do you have that in the one that you like? You can email to me, or
The one that I like's on the screen right now.
Okay.
That's what you're proposing?
Yes.
Okay. Discussion from members.
Dan, looking at it, first of all, John, I happen to like cherubs, just so you know. So. The only concern, whatever bracket, that's the least of my concerns, but seeing that it's welded, there was discussion last time about that sign swinging. Is that welding going to be strong enough to keep that sign from flying away on a day like today? That's the only concern I have. Really,
that is what I've been told. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, my first requirement to every sign person I've talked to was this has to be able to withstand Wisconsin wind, hail, all the weather we get. We can't have it flying off and hitting someone. We can't have it. We can't have it on a chain just swinging. So they all know it's going to, at a minimum, be spot welded at multiple points.
Okay. Aside from that, brackets, design, nothing really concerns me with what you've shown. I agree on the placement that Randy and John both said before, makes the most sense for you.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Lisa, is there any concern as far as area signage? We're good on this one?
Yeah, I think I did send that to Dan pretty early on in his design process about the size here. When it's kind of more this pedestrian oriented, it's limited a little bit in the size, but again, your approval would still be pending, he still has to submit a proper sign permit application with dimensions and the colors and, the bracket to be used, everything. So I think it would just be conditional on staff approval of a sign permit. And that's where I'll check, face sizes and everything.
Okay.
And height.
Well, based on that, then I'm willing to make a motion, Arlen, to approve the design review and recommendation to the Plan Commission regarding the proposed signage at 107 South Main Street for Kickback Cafe, contingent upon the bracket being similar to the deluxe scroll bracket presented, and approval by staff on the final signage requirements.
We have a motion. Do we have a second to that motion?
Arlen, I'm happy to second that.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion from members? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Looks like, Joy, I think we have a unanimous vote.
Okay, thank you.
I apologize for asking the question after the vote. Does that cover the modification to the schematic in terms of height?
In the location, we were looking at the
Just
location.
moving the bracket up and over a bit.
Yeah, it is
That's a great
the,
point.
it should, John, motion and seconder, are you assuming that it is above, it is in that brick band above the steel beam?
Correct. And
Yes.
reusing, yes.
In that
Yes.
position between the
two windows.
sets, the pair of windows on the second floor?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Joy, do you-
Does that need to be in the motion?
It probably should be, Joy, just for, do
Can
you
you
want me to
word
read?
it?
You want me to reword the motion?
Yes, well, can you do the last sentence there, please?
I make a motion to approve the design review and recommendation of the Planning Commission regarding the proposed signage at 107 South Main Street for Kickback Cafe, contingent upon the approval of, or the use of the deluxe scroll bracket or similar. Final signage being approved by staff, and the location of the sign being in between the two windows on the second floor in the existing sign band, reutilizing the existing brackets and bolts as best as possible.
And the sign, you're talking about the bracket being mounted in that brick band,
Yes,
and the sign will hang below that.
yes. Does that make sense?
Joy, does
Is that
that
good
make
enough?
sense?
Does that
Yes,
work,
I
Joy?
got it. Thank you,
Okay.
John. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Thank you.
No, you're good, Dan.
Okay, all seconders and
Yeah.
approvals of the motion, does that
Yeah.
work with everybody?
Yep, perfect.
Joy,
Yeah.
do we need to call the vote again?
No, as
Okay.
long as everybody agrees, that's good.
Okay. Then we have, I believe it is time for us to bid adieu to the Plan Commission. And do we have a motion for adjournment of the Historic Preservation Commission?
Arlen, I'll move adjournment.
Do I have a second? Cannot be debated.
Who seconded that? Thank you.
All those in favor of adjourning the Historic Preservation Commission meeting, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, we are adjourned. Plan Commission, it is all yours.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arlen.
Thanks all.
HPC, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Moving on the agenda, item 8, public appearances, Plan Commission. A would be the public hearing to discuss and consider the approval of the proposed exterior renovations and signage for the project that we had just talked about at 113, 119 South Main Street for the Good Company Restaurant. I would like to open that public hearing at 5:57. Staff, being Elise, would you like to give us a report, please?
I think I already shared all my comments, so.
Okay.
And actually just FYI, we did look at there was a revision to some of the historic preservation ordinance language. So I think in the future, we will likely not have to do a public hearing for these, but since they've been noticed, we decided to go ahead and leave that on the agenda. But I think all of the staff comments and discussion was, mostly shared in the HPC section.
Okay, great. Anything else that would like to be added by the petitioners that are still here? Seeing none, anybody in the public that would like to speak on this topic? Item number 4, anybody? No? Okay. Moving on, item 5 is the Plan Commission comments. Anybody have any additional comments beyond what has already been said? This has been approved with contingent upon some issues with the HPC. Does anybody in the Plan Commission have any comments? Anyone? We're all good. Everything has been talked out and worked out. We've seen it before. It seems like a pretty tidy project, especially contingent upon approvals by the HPC, a couple of house cleaning items. Anybody? Nothing else? All right, seeing none, I will close the public hearing at 5:59, and we'll move on to discussion and possible action regarding the approval of the proposed exterior renovations and signage at 113, 119 South Main Street for the. Anybody make a motion?
I'll make that motion. Molzon.
Anybody? Patrick made a motion. Is there a second?
Second by Meyer.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Item B, public hearing to discuss and consider the approval of the proposed signage at 107 South Main Street for Kickback Cafe. It is 5:59. I'll open that public hearing, and we have, I'm assuming, Elise, the same thing. All heard the staff comments and reports. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. So
Sorry.
I don't think there's anything new that's going to come up between 3 minutes ago and now, so I think we're good. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, Dan? I'm assuming not. And we'll move on to public comment. Item 4, is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak on this issue? Seeing none, Plan Commission members, do we have any comments that would like to be said? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing at 6 o'clock. And I will open an opportunity for a motion on the discussion for the action to the village board regarding the approval of the possible signage at 107 South Main Street for Kickback. Somebody want to make that motion?
So moved, Severson.
You have a motion by Marv. Is there a second? I'll second. Okay.
Yeah, it's just to record, the motion was made by Severson,
Yes.
and I'll second it.
All right. Motion by Severson, second by Molzon. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Next item on the agenda is C, discussion and possible recommendation of the village board for an SIP on the Lakestone properties for the exterior material changes to the rear of the multifamily building at 917 Janesville Street, the Prairie Brook apartment project. Elise, would you like to give us a little bit of background on this?
Sure, time for something new now, moving on from Main Street. So this, just to clarify, this is an SIP revision to the original SIP that was approved for Lakestone, I think back in either January or February. Since that time, the applicant realized that there was not a lot of attention paid to kind of the selection of materials on the rear of the buildings, and after going through pricing for the stone kind of all the way around, realized that would be a really expensive undertaking. So they're proposing hardy plank instead of stone on the rear of the buildings. The stone that was sort of requested by the Planning Commission early on in the process has remained. So there's a couple different elevations, and I know the applicants are on the line here too, so they could maybe speak a little bit more towards that. But I think the end story is nothing else on the site plan has changed. I did want to let you know we're still just finalizing like the CSM document and the some details of the SIP, but they have made the changes about moving building 3 further, I think, to the west. So sort of inside the site, actually ended up moving it 14 feet rather than 10 feet, which was what was requested, and then have that additional landscaping. So once we get the final set of all the plans, that'll be what goes in the file. But I don't have any concerns about the change in material. I think, you know, this is an affordable workforce and senior housing project, and we certainly want to do what we can to help keep their costs down while still maintaining a high quality building here.
Fair enough. Thank you, Elise. Is somebody, a representative of the ownership group or architect that would like to speak on the project?
Yeah, this is Brian Spanos from Lakestone. Thanks for your time tonight. Yeah, again, this was really a change due to the architect and the grading that needed to be done from the engineering side. So some of the grading had dropped, and the architect really without much discussion added a split face stone. It's a very expensive addition. We are making every effort to keep this project moving forward with lumber costs, and this extra cost was not budgeted for. So we think we talked to him, talked to our contractor. We're going to be able to run that hardy plank right down over the concrete. It's going to just look like an extension of the building. We think it's going to look very nice, and it's going to keep us within budget. So again, just doing what we can to keep things moving and not go over budget before we start. So yeah, that was our reasoning behind this.
Great. Anybody in the Planning Commission have any comments or questions?
Quick question from me. This is Patrick. So the only area that you are looking to change is just what the little stone part was, a little bit on the north elevation and a little bit where the garage entry is. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct. There was additional stone you're not seeing where the grade drops. So if you kind of look at these two renderings here, where it gets darker underneath the first floor, they have that labeled as split face stone. We are keeping the split face stone by the parking garage, which is a nice upgrade. We haven't done that in a lot of our other projects. So we have kept it in a couple additional areas that really was over and above what we promised the Plan Commission. But we've removed it kind of, if you think of the first floor and then any area below that where there's concrete showing, you're not going to see concrete. It's going to run that hardy plank down and cover the concrete of those areas. It's really more grading issues of where we have to, obviously we don't want to expose concrete on any side of the building. So it's still it's just gonna make the building look a little, obviously taller. It's with either stone or this hardy plank material. And the hardy plank is gonna be a much more economical way to finish that area to meet the grade.
Okay, thank you.
Any other Plan Commission members have questions? I think that this is a completely reasonable request for the project. I think that it's a nice gesture by them. They could have left it as exposed concrete. So with that being said, is there somebody that would like to make a motion on this?
I'll make that motion, Severson.
We have a motion by Marv to approve the revision to the submitted Lakestone Properties project for the exterior changes. Is there a second?
This is Carpenter. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by please saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Somebody's got background noise going on again.
I think Brian's calling in from vacation, so that might have been in the background.
I just muted myself. I'm sorry. This is the kids' spring break, so we're doing our best to try to. I'll mute myself.
Moving on, item D, conceptual discussion with Forward Development Group regarding the updated plans for multifamily development, the flats on the Tarkenton parcel 5264 Highway CC. Is there somebody that would like to speak on that? Or Elise, would you like to give us some background?
Elise, I can start, or if you wanted to provide an initial background, then I could jump in and then have Jess touch on a few things. We're flexible.
Okay, I'll just reorient the Planning Commission here, just to make sure, because we have a lot of parcel names being thrown around here. Just want to make sure everyone knows where we are. So the project area here, they're calling the flats now, it's formerly owned by Tarkenton, and we are in the process of annexing this into the village, hopefully in April. But this would just be east of Peterson Trail. Beehive is located right here. We did see a previous concept, I think back in February from you all, and that was a little bit larger and actually had taken some of the areas in phase 3, the single family lots, and incorporated that into the multifamily project. So now we're seeing a condensed version. I'm sure you'll talk a little bit more about why that is and kind of the direction that you're heading, but they have met with staff at the staff meetings a couple of times and have done a great job incorporating feedback, and I think we like where this is headed. So I will hand it over to you to kind of walk us through the changes, and I think just the first couple of pages are more the narrative, so I can maybe scroll to the site plan when you're ready.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you, Elise. Really appreciate it. Good evening, everyone. My name is Connor Kearney, Director of Entitlement and Sales for Forward Development Group. Also with FDG this evening is Brent Ellefson. He was just sitting in here. He assists me with entitlement efforts. And then we also have JSD Senior Planner Jess Vaughn on the line. She's representing the project team and is prepared to talk through the concept plan in detail. First off, we'd like to thank Plan Commission for having us back. As Elise stated, this concept plan site was discussed with Plan Commission on, I think it was January 14th was that meeting date. And at that meeting, we heard comments regarding site organization, circulation, overall building massing, and so forth. The discussion from that Plan Commission meeting, combined with other notable updates to the Highlands and Netherwood overall plat, have really resulted in what's shown in concept here tonight. So we really believe this design successfully incorporates this parcel into the overall Highlands and Netherwood subdivision. And we're really excited about how things have come together with the recent plan updates. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jess to discuss a few more specifics as it relates to the planning efforts and then the concept plan in particular.
How about now? Can everybody hear me now?
We got you now, Jess.
Okay. All right, there we go. As Connor mentioned, we're taking down a larger replatting effort for Highlands of Netherwood. And this project site in particular is included as part of that replat effort, with the main idea of really successfully integrating that parcel into the overall neighborhood. As a result of incorporating this parcel, we were able to kind of rethink a couple of things that improved our design, especially when it comes to stormwater management. Outlot 1, that's on the very southeast corner, we were able to enlarge that basin and create a larger, more regional facility. So what that did is it eliminated another stormwater facility that was on lot 34, which is the villas in that southeast corner there. So we've eliminated one stormwater basin, created a larger regional facility. As part of that redesign, we are also able to eliminate a large retaining wall. The additional area for the basin allowed us to finesse grading a little bit and eliminate that infrastructure. Also, what we were able to do is we had a multi-use path along the very eastern edge of the stormwater basin. And what we did is we were able, with that additional area, we were also able to better integrate and relocate that multi-use path to a location that is more integrated into the neighborhood and into the village's larger trail system. So with that replat, we're able to redesign the concept for the project site too. We're working with a little bit of a smaller area than what you had previously seen. I think our previous lot was around 6 acres, and now we're looking at, I believe, just over 4. 2 of those acres are going to be dedicated to that stormwater facility, creating that larger basin. And what we're left with is just under 3 acres. So what you see before you this evening is a concept plan that is primarily a multifamily residential development that's comprised of a collection of 5 2-story buildings. There's one kind of centrally located point of access that will serve the project site, and the internal circulation will be focused on private driveways that are going to be designed and utilized more as shared alleys. With the goal of maintaining connectivity to the surrounding neighborhood and trail systems, we wanted to provide a series of pedestrian pathways that provide and accommodate that connectivity. We have one centrally located multi-use path connection that runs from Peterson Trail to the larger trail system all the way to the east, and that connects to the village's overall multi-use trail, and that will go all the way to the north to that 9-acre park that was just completed last spring. And then we also have connectivity north-south there, as well as along County Highway CC. So overall, we're looking at a total of 51 units, which is it's more than half fewer units than what we saw previously, which results in a net density of about 17.8 dwelling units per acre. Overall, we feel that this concept plan is generally consistent with the village's goals and policies as it relates to development and the village's adopted comprehensive plan, especially those speaking to ensuring that new development is compatible and complementary to the existing development, as well as those that encourage safe, affordable housing and cohesive neighborhoods. So with that, I would turn it over to the Plan Commission for any questions. I do think you guys will probably be seeing the preliminary plat for the overall replat of Highlands of Netherwood here in the next couple of weeks. So I'm happy to answer any preliminary questions on that as well.
Great, thank you, Jess. I appreciate it. Does anybody on the Plan Commission have any questions?
I've got a couple, John. This
Yeah,
is
Jeff.
Patrick speaking. And overall, I like the direction you're taking. I like the circulation of the property. The two questions I have really pertain to common areas. And I realize this is kind of conceptual at this point, but you've got that large green island. Are there any plans to add amenities, outdoor grilling areas or things for people in these buildings? And then the second related question, what about additional parking for visitors?
Sure. That's the one thing I forgot to mention. So I think the last plan you guys saw, we had very few amenity spaces, especially ones that were of any sort of size that would provide a real amenity for the residents. And so what we wanted to do with this plan is create kind of a more centrally located and much larger open space amenity. And I think Connor can also speak to programming, but we were thinking this is probably a space that will be utilized as more passive recreation. So you have the nice walking path there, but then it's seating areas, maybe a fire pit, a dog walk area, and any sort of maybe bocce ball courts or bike parking and repair stations is kind of what we're anticipating the programming to be in that space. With regard to parking, so we struggled with this as well. So right now what we're showing is you have garage stalls for each unit, and then there's enough room for to accommodate backing distance and parking behind each of the garage stalls. To provide additional on-site parking, we would really start eating away at that green space. And so we were kind of trying to do that balancing act a little bit of, do we want the green space or do we want the parking? I think it may be possible to get a couple of potentially parallel spaces or angled spaces in there. But again, you're gonna really start to eat away at that green space. So if the commission wants to provide direction on that this evening, that would be greatly appreciated, because I know that's something that we've also talked with staff on as well.
Great. Anybody else have any questions? Otherwise, we can go into the request that is in front of us.
Can you provide us the unit mix, number of bedrooms, number of garage stalls, number of outside the garage stalls that you're providing here?
Yeah, absolutely. With the, assuming we receive positive feedback tonight, the next step would be, updating that GDP document, and that'd be our next submittal here. And that would include, that information you're talking about, the breakdown of unit mix, how each of those function. It would touch on the architecture and so forth. And in terms of the architecture, we're generally thinking that, similar to what was previously shared, the craftsman style, almost similar to individual townhome unit feel. So the hip roofs, the masonry columns, and fascia detailing throughout those. That's very similar to what we had originally shown, but that'll be further detailed as well.
Connor, do you know any sort of unit mix at this point? Are you guys still fleshing that out a little bit?
Yeah, we're still looking at it right now, and the way these units lay out, it's a stacked flat concept. So you drive in on the first floor. So for an example, a 10-unit building would have 3 units on that first floor, and then the second level would have 7 units, and they're all 2-bedroom units. I believe it's a mix of 1 beds and 2 beds, and there may be a 2-bed den for some flexibility or 1-bed dens. That's kind of to be designed. We're waiting to hear back from our architect on that, but these footprints were provided by them with the intent for some unit flexibility. So we're still working through that design a little bit right now.
Yeah, and based on that, and that, I would say that our parking ratio, we're probably 1 to 1.5 stalls per unit, depending on what that final mix looks like for 1 and 2 bedroom units.
Each unit would have its own dedicated garage, 1 stall garage space, and then a surface spot.
Yep,
correct?
that's correct.
Correct. And enough room to park a vehicle behind that one garage stall.
Okay.
Yep.
John, one other change and kind of point of discussion I forgot to mention they've been having with staff was, I know back in, I guess, January, when we had the first conceptual conversation with Planning Commission, there were some comments about trying to possibly line up the entrances with Lot 41, the villas, and then the flats over here. And they did present us a layout that had a lined up entrance, but it really limited where that sort of building 2 could go and orientation. And so staff's recommendation was we were comfortable with the entrances being staggered. And maybe we can get some Planning Commission feedback on that if they think that's appropriate. But I think overall that change in allowing building 2 to sort of face Peterson Trail and have the central green space allowed for a better site design when they weren't constrained by having that entrance. They are kind of more on the northern end of this parcel.
Well, Elise, your comments are a great segue because that's where I was headed.
It's really fun.
To Jess and Connor, a couple of things. I'm looking at this and I think that you have made a really nice effort to utilize the space efficiently, create some good green space in the middle. You know, as we move forward, we'll ask for more detail on that. You know the game. So all of that sort of stuff. As far as the layout itself, how we had talked and requested about those drive lanes being located so that as much as across from each other as possible. Can you explain to me why you came to this solution rather than taking the plan and you've got this sort of shared pathway going east-west across the property and sort of flipping it so that the 3 buildings were on the south against County CC and the 2 buildings were parallel to the residential units on the north? That would have made that access drive a little bit closer to parallel with what's across the street. Does that make sense?
Definitely does.
It does.
Yeah,
Connor, do you, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Jess. But we
That's
did
okay.
look at alternate plans and aligning those, and we did review that with staff. And, you know, one option would be to, assuming we leave the configuration as is, it would be to essentially flip building 1 and building 2. So that 7-unit building would be slid to the west and building 2 would be slid to the east, and you'd have those front each other, and that would allow for the ability to align those. And what that did is really chop up that central green space, and it created somewhat of an awkward configuration for the internal site circulation. So that was the kind of result here of what you see. And you know, to your comment about flipping the buildings, we did consider multiple orientations for the massing of these buildings. But one thing we really wanted to be cognizant of was that relationship with the single family. And to be honest, the previous plan with 110 units and 11 buildings, that was one of our hesitations, was that transition between multifamily and the single family lots. And by orientating the buildings this way on a north-south manner, you're putting the least amount of facade towards those single family homes, as opposed to where buildings 4 and 5 would essentially be one big facade, but you'd be facing County Highway CC. So it was a transition of mass, if you will. That was the thought behind the orientation of them on site right now.
Okay. I think that this, go ahead.
I was going to say, I wonder too if things were sort of mirrored, if there would be more visibility of the parking and sort of the rear of the buildings from CC versus they're kind of all more internal to the site. Maybe a little bit more
so I think
now.
I think just in talking with staff too, I'll just chime in that when we worked with staff at the DRC, Mike Slaveny and Jeff Rao had some really good comments about maintaining those positive building relationships, not only externally, which the way building 3 is oriented and the way building 2 is oriented, you have those positive, and same with 5 and 4, you have those really positive building relationships to the street, as well as externally for folks that are traveling down County Highway CC. They're not seeing parking lots or backyards, they're seeing front doors. And so that was something that it seemed that staff was really thought was a good idea. And then also, when you started kind of shifting around the 10-unit buildings, you ended up with a really awkward internal building relationship and how buildings were being entered and exited and where parking was, as well as kind of the orientation to the open space. And so what we wanted to do is maintain not only positive building relationships externally, but also internally to the site and to the amenities within the development as well.
I think that's a fair assessment. I would be willing to make the argument that, on County CC at the speed of traffic, the front of the buildings is irrelevant compared to the residential units on the north. I would rather have the architectural features of buildings 5 and 4 facing my backyard, rather than having somebody coming home with their headlights facing into my backyard as it is currently proposed. So I think that if we're on Highway CC, you forego the fact that the front doors face CC and you give that minimal impact facing the backyards of the residential and let the busy aspects of the other 3 units go to County Highway CC. And that would then give you the added benefit of taking that curb cut and putting it more in line with what's across the road to the west. That's just my opinion.
Okay. I'll just add too that there's a planned landscape buffer along the northern property line to kind of help alleviate some of those adverse impacts. And also as part of our permitting with Dane County along County Highway CC, with this development and with the replat, they are reconsidering the speed limit along this portion of County Highway CC. They're looking at reducing it.
Perfect. To that point, I know that last time we had talked, I had asked about the guest experience. So if I'm a visitor to this and I pull into, I don't know, pick a building 3, 5, and I park in there behind the unit, where do I go to visit this person? If I'm unfamiliar, or if I'm a first time there, or even if I've been there twice.
Yep, and that would be through the internal sidewalk system, so you can see it through buildings in the middle between buildings 4 and 5. You'd have to walk and go to the front doors where those would connect to either of those units. It'd all be that first floor entry for those units, and then the units that are the second floor, that would be an internal stairwell that's adjacent to their garage that you'd have to go up and through.
So regardless of these units, if I'm I think that it's important to have at least a couple of stalls for people that might not be familiar with it. I understand that it will impact the green space to some extent, but I think that even a couple of visitor stalls for people that are just unfamiliar, especially if the only access to these units is on the opposite side of where you're driving in, is important.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And we did think about it, visitor parking, if there was a space to add that. What we'd like to do is keep that central green space open for the flexibility and some of those amenities you brought up, the grilling stations, the fire pit area, the potential dog walk area. I mean, that's what we'd like to keep flexible in the center there, which is also double purpose for snow storage in the winter as well. But, adjacent to building 2 there, or adjacent to building 3, just to the south, we could look at potentially some, a single loaded area for head installs there, potentially marked for visitors.
I think that would be good. Anybody else on the Planning Commission have any other comments, suggestions?
Yeah, I wanted to walk me through a little bit on building number 5. So I'm seeing 3 bays, 4 little peninsulas jutting out. But prior to that, as you just pull into the property, that first big section before we get to those little bays, is that parking? Is that another garage entrance? And where I'm going with this is the concern being so close to the apron there of somebody trying to back out and somebody trying to pull in. Is there a conflict there?
Sure, yeah.
I think that, oh, go ahead, Connor.
Well, I was just
I was
going to
gonna
clarify
say-
it is intended to be a garage there as well, but go ahead, Jess.
I was going to say, I believe it's intended to be a garage. And when we, based on what we hear tonight, we'll be refining the concept and the plan and really putting kind of those ultimate nuts and bolts to it with turning templates and looking at refuse, fire trucks, all of those things. That's kind of our next step based on what we're hearing tonight.
Okay. I think
That's
you're headed
something
in
that
the
we'll
right.
definitely take into consideration.
Yeah, you're headed in the right direction. I think, again, to echo what John said, I as much as I would rather see you not sacrifice green space, I do think you need a little bit of visitor parking, a little bit of extra visitor parking. One of the units has a party and they have 3-4 guests come in different cars. Where are they going to park? That's the concern I have.
Sure.
Anybody else on the Plan Commission have any comments?
Maybe just if Jeff could speak to the path and timing here. I see that they have a note on here to be timed with County Highway CC improvements. I think we're looking to do these improvements sooner than that. And
Yeah,
that's not exactly shown here, but that's why those sidewalks are kind of going to nowhere. That would be the path system that we would be looking to have installed sooner.
Correct. Just Mike and I are kind of sharing the office.
Looks like Jeff might
Little
be
hard
getting
to hear.
noticed.
Oh, yep, we can't hear you, Jeff.
I am not muted. Can you hear me?
Hey,
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, Mike and I were kind of sharing a computer here post power outage. Yeah, that path will have to go in at the time of when this is constructed out there and they make the improvements to County Highway CC as part of the entrance and everything there. Because we'll be actually extending that path. It'll connect back to that other path along the detention pond. Right there. No, right there. And then eventually, if you go along CC, we'll be extending the path from where they ended at that corner over to Bergamot Boulevard. Did that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, good. Sorry.
Nope. So is there anything that you have heard tonight, Connor or Jess, that would preclude you from allowing anything for moving forward on those paths and anything?
No, I think, all the comments received, I think we're fully committed to moving things forward here. As far as that particular path goes, that's something we'll work with village staff on. I know, as part of the bigger picture for really the infrastructure improvements that would support not only this site, but the village site as well. And what would be the third phase for Highlands of Netherwood. That is all being planned for this year. And we have a construction plan set on what those offsite improvements on County Highway CC would entail. And we'll have to work with village staff on those particular plans and making sure the grading works, that stormwater works within that right of way, and that there's sufficient room for that path connection. We'll just have to have our engineers work together and get that figured out.
Great, thank you. And do you have enough feedback, do you think, to move forward with the project? Is there anything else that you were looking for specifically, or? Because we could make stuff up all day long if you wanted to.
I think that the big thing for me that I wanted feedback was on the access, because I know that was brought up previously, but I think we got that this evening, and a lot of the larger ticket items I think were addressed. So we're excited with the revised scope and to move it forward.
Great, thank you. Great, thank you. And we will continue on with our agenda.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Item 9, communication of miscellaneous business. The next regular plan commission meeting will be Thursday, April 15th, because some people don't want to work after an election. I get it.
We got double duty now with this meeting though.
Yeah, well, our pay doubles too. So just put it down on your calendar that the date has changed. That's all that it is. Right? Am I correct? Okay. And that the May Planning Commission will be back to the normal date of May 6th. We have no unfinished, and correct me if I'm wrong, correct? Elise, you look like you're saying something.
Nope, just nodding. You're good.
Oh, okay.
No one can.
Okay. All right. Item 10, we have no unfinished business because we're great. Item 11, no new business. And item 12, staff reports. Anybody want to pitch in, chime in on any of those items? Excellent. Item 13, items for future meetings is just sort of a placeholder. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Nope, I don't have any dates associated with those yet, but hopefully I keep waiting for a light meeting agenda, but haven't found one yet.
I'd like to nominate Elise Cruz for an award this evening for keeping it all together through everything.
I did accidentally end the meeting, so I don't know if I get full credit, but
I second the motion.
thanks for hanging with me.
All right, all those in favor of adjournment, or actually, I need a motion to adjourn. I'm really ahead of myself here.
Move to adjourn, Mole's on.
Is there a second? Bano, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thanks for playing, everybody. Have a good one.
Thanks, John.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Everyone. Bye.